I-10 is closed in South Tucson with the shelter-in-place reinstated after another accident that spills toxic chemicals all over the area. So we'll be talking about that, some of the connection that I have with this, and the timing as well, along with what happened in Ohio and what is continuing to happen there. In other news, the U.S. could default on its debt ceiling, but nobody seems to know when, so they continue to make various decisions and various predictions without really having any meat behind them. So we'll talk about that and what that means and why they're trying to scare you into all of this. UFO fever has gripped the Senate after a classified briefing about the balloon incident and what's been happening with that. So we'll be talking about that and what's happening there. And the defendant on trial for a gruesome murder in Wisconsin goes into court and attacks her lawyer. It is going to be all of this and more. I got more votes than Kevin McCarthy. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. This is your evening news, and we've got another spill, as was mentioned in the live chat here before we got started. This one down in Tucson with another shelter-in-place order, so we'll be talking about that, plus a little bit of the fallout that Mayor Pete has had over what's happening in Ohio, so we'll be going on with that. The debt ceiling is, I know they're trying to hide it with a lot of this other stuff with the balloon and whatnot, but we'll be talking just a bit about that and the fact that nobody can really predict where this is going to go. Matt Gaetz, by the way, is not going to be charged in the trafficking thing that everybody tried to pin him with, so we'll be talking about that. And even I have one from Jezebel, and I never use Jezebel, talking about why Dianne Feinstein should just step aside right now. It is going to be all this and more over here on Contemporary. Before we get started, let's make sure we go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative. Go check out The Porch Boys, Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and more as we come together to bring you a better news experience from the common man for the common man. That is right. For too long, so many of us have gotten our news from people who wear suits that cost more than our houses. It's time for that grip to end, and as we raise our profiles more, we can start to do more about on the ground, get actual reporting, first-hand reporting, not just re-reporting of the news. I know that we've had some incidences going on with that, and some people I think are never going to go back and do that again, but we've got so much more that we can go with, so go check that out over here on Contemporary. And let's get started with the news of the day, starting with the Dow. Hold on. There we go. And starting off on the Dow today, the Dow was up 38.78 points today. Now, the Dow spent the majority of its day in a major dip coming out of the beginning, but rose itself back up. It faltered again towards the end of the day, but was able to bring itself back up for a positive to 34,128.05. That is up 38.78 points, or 0.11%. For those of you who are following along at home, and we'll be talking a bit about what the rally did and where we go for the NASDAQ being on a 3-day win streak, and we'll see what's happening with that as well. Looking at your Bitcoin is doing much, much better today. The Bitcoin had a $2,000 raise on its value, Bitcoin coming up to $24,287 per coin. That is up $2,081 even on trading for the day. And you can see where it stayed flatline throughout most of the day before having a spike, staying flatline again, and having a major spike that took up the majority of its gains for the day. So anybody who had Bitcoin and bought a little bit of it in this last little dip just won again. So congratulations for that. We will see what happens there. Looking in at your gas prices in the Madison area, we see still unchanged. This has been the least thrilling portion of this, and after seeing wild swings, I'm actually okay with this. I would actually rather see some wild swings down, but if they're staying in one place, they're not going up. So that's what we see coming for that. Let's grab one from Investors Business Daily, see what they have to say for today. Make it a date. Make plans with 3 months of IBD digital and print for just $15. Don't you want IBD digital and print? Don't you want a print newspaper from Investors Business Daily every day for a month for $15? No, 3 months, 90 days. Dow Futures market rally keeps climbing. Shopify, Roku, Cisco are key earnings movers from Ed Carson. Dow Futures were little changed after hours, along with the S&P and the NASDAQ. Shopify, Cisco, and Roku headlined earnings late Wednesday, with Crocs set up to step up early Thursday. The NASDAQ led a positive session Wednesday for the market rally despite booming retail sales and better than expected economic data. More stocks broke out with earnings gaps up for Airbnb, and Martin Marietta Materials for solar made a bullish move from its 50-day line. Shopify, Albemarle, Synopsys, Roku, Cisco, Allison Transmission, and Fastly were big earnings reports late Wednesday. Crocs, Datadog, and Toast report early on Thursday. On the futures, Dow Futures fell a fraction versus fair value. The S&P 500 were flat, and the NASDAQ rose 0.15. The NASDAQ is on a win streak right now, so we've got that. Cisco is a Dow Jones, S&P, and NASDAQ 100 component. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, investors will get the January Producer Price Index and Housing Starts reports from the February Philly Fed Manufacturing Index and the latest jobless claims data. So we've got a lot of data coming in tomorrow, and that's going to change and affect how the markets go for tomorrow. So I don't have a crystal ball. I don't see what's going here. I do see that there's probably going to be, especially with the inflation report coming in, there's probably going to be some difficulty there. But we'll see what happens. We'll continue to watch it and see what's there. And remember, overnight action in Dow Futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see for that. Let's grab some layoffs news again. Hold on, I gotta turn this down in my ears. I don't know why that's so loud, but because it's not picking up to where it's picking up and going over me talking on the monitors here, but it's just in my ears. I had to turn that down. Sports Illustrated is now hit with layoffs, shakeup of top editors. Again, actually a little bit surprised that this one took this long. Sports Illustrated, does anybody watch or see their website anymore? I know that they do mostly digital at this point, but does anybody really use their publication anymore? That's a serious question, because I mean, we've got ESPN, which is tied in with Disney and Disney profits. That's, I think, taking the majority of the sports market. I mean, you can Google search the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, and there are models that are better than those girls that are out there with a high-powered cell phone and a dream. They're doing better photos than this anymore. I'm surprised Sports Illustrated's still in business. I'm not going to lie. Layoffs hit Sports Illustrated on Wednesday as the media business continues to have a rough winter with job losses. Among the layoffs was executive editor Adam Dworson, who announced on Twitter he is out. An internal memo obtained by the Post said that Ryan Hunt, the co-editor-in-chief who has been with the outlet for 25 years, is retiring in March. We are saying goodbye to 17 colleagues and have created 12 new openings to reflect the new needs of the Sports Illustrated business, the memo said. Since October of 2019, when we partnered with Authentic Brands Group to take over operations of the print and digital web and mobile businesses, we have evolved Sports Illustrated by repositioning the print business as a monthly publication with premium journalism and excellent storytelling, while also developing a robust digital presence across many platforms. The strategy has helped propel our sports vertical to rapid growth, adding more than 30 million users to our sports vertical since inception. The SI team revamped the print strategy, won awards for their incredible journalism, and reset the editorial direction, design, and experience of SI and SI Kids magazines. The digital audience has grown substantially, but increasingly, consumers are interacting with our content on other platforms and in new ways. The changes announced here will allow us to continue to respond and address these evolving audience needs. It is critical that we invest in growth areas of our brands while maintaining the expectations of our existing and long-time customers. A number of staffers announced their time with SI has come to an end. I was laid off by Sports Illustrated today, tweeted college sports editor Molly Geary. I came here as a nervous, awed 22-year-old fresh out of college and leave nearly 9 years later having grown immensely. I've worked with so many tremendous people, and I'm really proud of everything we've accomplished. KTZed features writer Alex Pruitt after 7.5 years of writing about the NHL, NBA, NFL, MLB, LPGA, World Cup, Olympics, and more. I, too, have been laid off by Sports Illustrated this morning. Additional employees who announced that they were among the layoffs were copy editor Sarah Kelly, NBA editor Jarrell Harris, baseball editor Matt Martell, soccer editor Abby Creditor, NBA writer Jeremy Wu, features editor Chris Almeida, and associate betting editor Matt A. Halt. So, and well, one of the things that I want to ask is, again, I started off the segment asking who uses Sports Illustrated anymore, because, again, most everything that we have it's on ESPN or Google Sports. I'm really surprised Sports Illustrated is even still in business. Now, that's not saying that the people that are there are not great people. I mean, this is not a tech company by any stretch of the imagination, but it just seems that market has phased out at this point, and really the only people that are getting Sports Illustrated are doctors' offices. It's really a question of how is it even making money at this point. But we've had everything, we've had the memories, and honestly, one of the things that I would have to question as far as Sports Illustrated goes is, are we looking at a situation where sports is falling off the center stage? And that is indeed a serious question when I go to it. It's not like the NFL's gone away and millions of people watched the Super Bowl. It was on almost every television, everywhere that I went on the way home. And I did stop in a couple places on my way home on Super Bowl Sunday. I did not personally watch it, but I do feel like that sentiment was there. It's the same thing with the BLM flag, going over and looking over the Mass Pike. I was going to say, it's not Taco Tuesday, it's Taco Wednesday. What are you talking about, Arvold? But then I see it, yeah, it's Taco Wednesday. So that's where Sports Illustrated is at. We have got to talk, we've got to talk Hollywood again, because another death, although this one is not somebody who is dying way too young. As we've seen in too many other situations here, reading from CNN today, Raquel Welch, Fantastic Voyage star, has died at age 82. I'm not going to lie, I had to look up who this was. From Xandra Gonzalez and Ali Rosenblum. Yeah, they do one every year, Ron. It loses viewership every year, but they do one every year. Would you try this Peeps flavored Pepsi? See how these taste. Hell yes, I would. By the way, a very, very special someone just brought me a whole buttload of Peeps, and I'm pretty excited about it. Raquel Welch, veteran actress who rose to fame in the 60s in the films 1 Million Years BC and Fantastic Voyage, has died, according to a statement provided by her manager, Steven Sauer. She was 82, so she had a good run. I'll give it that. Welch died Wednesday morning in LA after a brief illness, the statement said. The actress, with more than 70 film and television credits, which is an impressive resume in and of itself, got her start as a spokesmodel on a variety show The Hollywood Palace, and had a small role with Elvis in Roustabout in 1964. Good movie, by the way. I wonder who she played in that. Now I'm thinking about that. Her career took off 2 years later with the release of the science fiction film Fantastic Voyage, about a team of scientists shrunken and injected into a critically ill man's body in 1 million years BC, a prehistoric drama that cast Welch as a cave woman Loana, with photos of her in a fur bikini becoming the foundation of the movie's marketing campaign. Yeah, okay. I'm starting to get a picture of who this person is, and yeah, okay, I can see that too, by the way. While turning Welch into an international sex symbol, the poster later became a central device in the acclaimed movie The Shawshank Redemption. Welch's career in TV and film spanned decades. A number of starring roles for Welch followed in the 60s, including the westerns Bandolero and 100 Rifles, the latter notable for her then controversial interracial love scene with former football star Jim Brown. Yeah, I can see why that might be a problem in the 60s. In 67, following the instant success of Fantastic Voyage in 1 million years BC, Welch starred as Lillian Lust in Bedazzled, a film that was later remade in 2000, starring Elizabeth Hurley and Brendan Fraser. I've seen the new one, I haven't seen the old one. The Chicago-born actress went on to star as Constance de Bonacieux in the 1973 movie The Three Musketeers. Welch won a Best Actress Golden Globe Award for her performance and reprised her role as de Bonacieux in the 1974 sequel, The Four Musketeers, Milady's Revenge. Other notable roles for Welch include the titular role in 1970's Myra Breckinridge, in which she played a trans actress. Before it was cool, by the way. She's probably going to get canceled for that, though, for not actually being trans. In the 90s, Welch appeared in various sitcoms, including Seinfeld, where she played herself as a nod to the legendary diva she'd become. Welch also appeared in Spin City, Evening Shade, and Sabrina. I remember the Sabrina appearance. Welch's iconic roles continued to turn into the turn of the century. The Hollywood legend appeared in 2001's Legally Blonde alongside Reese Witherspoon and portrayed Mrs. Wyndham Vandermark, ex-wife of the late Hayworth Wyndham, whose murder Witherspoon's Elle Woods helped solve. No way! Okay, now I know who this person is. As the momentum pushed forth for Welch, the sex symbol moniker also continued to stick around. Part of being a sex symbol is very flattering, and it does help you get success in the business, but only to a point. Welch said in an interview with Cinema.com around the release of her 2001 film Tortilla Soup, adding that it does cloud people's imagination. They just can't see you being able to do anything else. Welch's final professional credit came in 2017, where the icon starred as Rosa, the mother-in-law of single dad in UPTV's Date My Dad. I don't know that one. But okay, now I am starting to see some of this, and it does look like with Ron Helton, that there is actually some well-known and some sadness going along with this. This is somebody who's been on a lot of bedroom wallows through the 60s and 70s. Ron Helton even saying, she was way before your time. A lot of young men had that 1 million years calendar on their wall. I never did. Did I ever have a movie or a TV star on my wall when I was a kid? I know I had Britney. And I had Michelle Branch. I liked Michelle Branch a lot when I was younger. I was a little bit young, rather, to have Christine Lakin, who was my first celebrity crush. I suppose that if I could have, she would have been the one, but... Rest in peace, Raquel Welch. Again, now that I know who you are. Alright, let's talk about Tucson. We're going to start today with NPR. And remember, hit that donate button because NPR needs our donations. It's our money, comrade, to make sure to tell you that the only reason that we're seeing spills and chills and horror is because evil Donald Trump was the one who made all these things happen. And the Department of Transportation can't do anything about it anymore, so hit that donate button. Otherwise, you might think that this might be a part of the current administration, and we would never want to see that. NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is they have to say. A portion of the main freeway that runs through the southern Arizona desert and links the state's two largest cities remains closed outside Tucson. On Wednesday morning, a day after the deadly crash caused a hazardous material leak and forced evacuations nearby. Residents within a half mile of the crash on I-10, southeast of downtown Tucson, were ordered to leave, and those within 3 miles were told to shelter in place after liquid nitric acid was determined to be leaking from the tractor pulling a box trailer. The Arizona Department of Public Safety said the acid sent up an eerie yellow and red plumes over the asphalt roadway that runs through the dry land scattered with scrub brush. Yeah, I've worked with nitric acid, and especially with it being in the Arizona sun, even though it's probably only 80 or 90 in Arizona right now, is probably not a good thing to breathe. I didn't have a map of the world or NASA. I had girls. I did have a Batman poster when I was a little kid, but it became girls pretty quickly. A 1-mile shelter-in-place order was lifted Tuesday, but officials reinstated it early Wednesday, saying more nitric acid was released as crews tried to remove the load and later expanded the perimeter. Area residents were told to turn off heaters and air conditioning systems that bring in outside air. That area would be monitored to assess the need for possible changes to these orders, officials said, noting that those who evacuated should expect to be displaced until midday. The weather temporarily impeded hazardous material recovery and mitigation efforts overnight, but officials said Wednesday that material had been removed from the truck, and crews were being using dirt to help keep more nitric acid from being released. Wonder how that's going to be for your groundwater. The driver of the truck was killed, the department said, but few other details were released. The agency warned motorists in the Tucson area should anticipate impacts to their Wednesday morning commute in and around I-10. This will be an extended closure, they said in a tweet Tuesday evening. The University of Arizona Tech Park was among the areas evacuated. Some school children in Rita Ranch were among those who sheltered in place. The Arizona Daily Star reported officials canceled classes at several nearby schools on Wednesday. Then they go on to talk about what nitric acid is. Nitric acid is used to make ammonium nitrate for fertilizers in the manufacture of plastics and dyes. The CDC's website says nitric acid is highly corrosive, colorless liquid with yellow or red fumes that can cause acrid smell. Yeah, they can. Oof. If you don't know that smell, you will almost immediately. It says exposure to nitric acid can irritate the eyes, skin, and mucous membranes. Depending on how long someone is exposed to the material and how much, it also can cause delayed pulmonary edema, pneumonitis, bronchitis, and dental erosion. Yeah, don't drink it. So, the problem that I have with this, and this kind of goes on to where people started to have conspiracy theories about the supply chain, especially when it came to food processing plants. And we don't necessarily know if we always had a lot of food processing plant fires before this past year. And we can go and look at the statistics, but it was never publicized as much as it is today. Part of this is because citizen journalists, like myself, can make a big deal out of things like that now. It doesn't necessarily have to be the man in the suit, like I talked about at the beginning of the show, which costs more than your house. Trust me, he costs more than your house too, but the suit that costs more than your house telling you what you should be outraged about and what you should ignore. Whereas any Yahoo with a trucker hat and a flannel shirt that can get close enough to the story can also do that now as well. And we can look at the stats, but I mean, these things don't make big stories. And now we also have the balloons, where we've got one balloon, and then they say, oh, well, during the Trump years there were two more, but nobody saw them and nobody knew about them. And then we all of a sudden have, bam, 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 3 more balloons show up within a week. The food processing fires. Plant after plant after plant after plant for weeks and weeks on end. They're just going up in flames. Food banks. Potato plants, eggplants, avian flus. We've had 3 or 4 strains of that coming through here. But it always seems to happen in groups, which really makes you wonder. Well, the publicity it comes in groups makes you wonder if some of this is being planned or some of this is coming out here to try to snarl the supply chain a little bit more and make it harder on the American people. I don't know the answer to that question, and I am not afraid to admit that. But I look at what I can see, and it makes me raise my hand and say, hey, hi, I have questions. Especially with both of these being so heavily regulated by the NTSB and the DOT. I love gold. A little bit from the local station, ABC 15, Arizona, says I-10 closed in South Tucson after nitric acid spill. From KGUN and ABC15.com staff. A crash in South Tucson promoted evacuations and shelter-in-place orders for hours after a nitric acid spill Tuesday, according to the Pima County Department of Environmental Quality. That's a thing? Authorities say a truck tractor pulling a box trailer flipped onto its side in the median. According to Arizona Department of Public Safety officials, the driver died from his injuries. The affected area is near Kolb Road along I-10. A shelter-in-place order was lifted around 8:45 p.m. Tuesday, but it was reinstated early Wednesday. So, a little bit of this here from the Department of Public Safety. Unified Command anticipates the evacuation order will be lifted at 0600 on Wednesday. Unified Command has reinstated the shelter-in-place order for a mile perimeter around the incident. While crews were attempting to remove the load from the commercial vehicle, gassing occurred. I-10 remains closed in both directions between Kolb and Rita Roads in Tucson. There's some of the cleanup that's going on there. You can, I think at this one you can actually see a little bit of the red going on here. Yeah, you can see the fumes that are out there. Just the discoloration on the sky right here. It's not real clear. I had to blow it up to see. A little bit more with that one too. I think I've been here, by the way. I think. Oh yeah, there's definitely some fumage there. Look at that. I mean, a lot of the Arizona looks the same, but I do believe I've been here before. I think this is what we took from... I was visiting an old girlfriend's dad in Phoenix, and he insisted on taking us on a driving tour of Arizona, which involved going down to Tombstone one day, and I think this is the road we took down there. Let's see. Residents of the area were advised to turn off heaters, air conditioning units, and other equipment that may bring in outside air. We talked about that. As of 9:15, DPS officials confirmed it was safe for residents to resume the use of heaters and air conditioners within a mile perimeter of the incident. That includes individuals east of the crash to Houghton Road, west of the crash to Kolb Road, north of the crash to Valencia, and south to Voyager. So that's local. Let's grab one from CNN. Actually, we'll skip this one because this is a lot of the same information that we saw. But KGUN9 ABC does have health guidance for possible nitric acid exposure. Here's the guidance. Guidance for possible I-10 hazmat acid exposure. We'll read the flowchart. Present in exposure area, 1 mile, yes. Were you indoors inside a car? Yes. Was air pulling from the outside? Yes. Wait, was it for 15 minutes or longer? Yes. No, we'll go with the no there, just go across the stop. Was it for 15 minutes or longer? No. Stop. Or were you inside a car? No. Goes down to were you outdoors? Yes. Was it for 15 minutes or longer? No. So it all goes down to the stop. Or we take the was it for 15 minutes or longer down to yes. Do you have new onset of respiratory symptoms or worsening existing symptoms? No. Monitor for 24 hours. Contact your healthcare provider if questions. Or yes, are you experiencing emergency signs or symptoms? Yes, call 911. Or no, call your provider, urgent care, or ER for medical evaluation ASAP. So that's what they think that you should be doing if you need medical attention. Probably a pretty good idea, especially with how toxic this stuff is. So again, I don't know. I can't tell you whether or not this is connected, or if there's some grand conspiracy out here to try to snarl our supply chain, or shut down, or show climate change, or even try to demonstrate to us that we need a bigger footprint and a bigger hand controlling everything that we do. I can't say any of that because I don't know. But what I do know is that it's really eerie, the fact that this happened just a few weeks off from each other, and a similar kind of incident that involves the same kinds of government boards. And we'll continue to monitor the situation and see if anything else pops up here as well. Let's grab one from Axios talking about Ohio. Ohio governor, water in East Palestine safe to drink after train derailment. I still wouldn't. From Shauna Chen. But, I typically don't take my cues from the governor anyway, so. Mike DeWine said Wednesday that the water in East Palestine's municipal system is safe to drink, nearly 2 weeks after a train carrying hazardous material derailed in the area. The train's derailment caused a fire and raised concerns about toxic fumes and water contamination from spilled materials. The Ohio Environmental Protection Agency is confident that the municipal water is safe to drink after the latest water testing results showed no detection of contaminants, DeWine tweeted on Wednesday. Hundreds of residents were ordered to evacuate their homes. Yeah, we know about this. And that's pretty much all there is Mike DeWine says that you can go drink the water. Again, I wouldn't. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what I would do, and you can make your own decisions, especially if you're in that area. I wouldn't. That's just me, yo. I wouldn't. Some legal advice. Now, coming from me, this is not official legal advice, but coming from another lawyer, we'll see what it is that he has to say. And again, I urge you to make your own decision on this, not necessarily take the lawyer's word for it. But he is in a better position to give legal advice than I am. Ohio train derailment lawyer issues stark warning to impacted families. Don't take the money. For Madeline Coggins. Nearly 2 weeks after a train derailed carrying hazardous materials, East Palestine, Ohio residents are grappling with the consequences of the incident while facing health concerns and a lack of resources. Residents were also forced to relocate in the aftermath of the train crash. Norfolk Southern. the company whose train crashed has offered compensation to those who were forced to relocate. But one lawyer warned residents that the offer could come with a catch. We want to get the word out to folks. Do not, if you can afford it. Again, emphasizing if you can afford it. Do not take this upfront money. But if you do, be aware that these folks might argue later that this is payment in full. Lipson O'Shea Legal Group principal and owner Michael O'Shea said on Cavuto Coast to Coast on Wednesday. O'Shea explained two types of fees Norfolk Southern is offering for those affected by the train crash. The first is a reimbursement fee to residents within a 1-mile radius of the crash for dislocation costs, covering hotels and other necessities needed following the evacuation. The second is an inconvenience fee. O'Shea, a lawyer representing several East Palestine families, encouraged those who can afford it to reject both compensation offers. We're suggesting to folks that can afford it, and again, we recognize that some cannot, that they don't accept either of those two fees because it might be argued later that it is a settlement of any claim that they have past, present, or future against the railroad for what they did here. O'Shea shared another rail incident from 2005 where residents were offered dangle money or trickle money. Later, the company argued residents who took the money had settled their claims, which is a fair assessment of this, by the way. If someone backs into your car and they get out and say, "I'm sorry," and give you $100 cash, you take it. You put it in your pocket, O'Shea posited. Then you go back to the repair shop, and the repair shop guy says, "You know what? It's going to be $800 to fix the car." And you go back to that person and that gave you the $100. They're going to say, "No court in satisfaction. I gave you $100, you accepted it. You put it in your pocket. You can't come after me for the other, let's say in this example, $700. Now, there are actually legal ramifications where you can go after it for the other $700. But it's really hard. And it takes a crack legal team to get there. So, if you can, as they said, don't take the money. If you can afford it, if you can afford to sit off this, wait, assess the damages, see what's going to be out in the short term and then the long term as well, and stick it out to Norfolk Southern and also possibly the U.S. government. Because as I'll explain in Discord, there's something in the U.S. government that failed, or at least the local governments that failed in this. Not just what happened with Norfolk Southern. From the Hill, Rubio and Vance questioned Buttigieg on freight rail oversight in wake of Ohio train derailment. From Julia Mueller, Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance on Wednesday questioned the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg over the department's oversight of the U.S. rail system in the wake of the train derailment in Ohio that has been spilling toxic chemicals since the crash. We write to convey our alarm over the Norfolk Southern Railway freight train derailment that occurred in Ohio earlier this month, the senators wrote in a letter to Buttigieg. In particular, we want to request information from the Department of Transportation regarding its oversight of the U.S. freight train system and, more generally, how it balances building a safe, resilient rail industry across our country in relation to building a hyper-efficient one with minimal direct human input. The 150-car train derailed in East Palestine, causing fires at the site of the pileup and causing chemicals to leak from one of the several cars noted to be carrying hazardous materials. Yes, we know that. The NTSB is investigating the cause of the crash, which I have suspicions about this one. I have suspicions about a lot of government things, but this one especially because, and again, I know how wheel bearings work. And rail wheels work. I know how all this operates together with each other. And what we saw in the video with the train cars coming in and bursting into flames, or having flames coming off the axle, that doesn't happen in 20 miles. That doesn't happen in 50 miles. So there's been a bearing failure somewhere on that train for a long time that a lot of people missed at some point or another. And I want to know why. It's not unreasonable to ask whether a crew of 2 rail workers plus 1 trainee is able to effectively monitor 150 cars, they wrote, noting concerns about this admin's prioritizing of efficiency over resilience in its national infrastructure and transportation systems. The senators, in their letter, requested the Department of Transportation to respond to a number of questions about the agency's practices, including the effects of its precision scheduled railroading. I think that's more of what happens to Mayor Pete after hours than what's actually happening in the railroad. And its classification system for trains carrying hazardous materials. I'm probably going to wind up in hell for that joke. But you know what? I think all of you who laughed at that are probably coming with me, so I'll at least be in good company. In hell I'll be in good company. God, now I have that song stuck in my head. From Fox News. Why wouldn't Mayor Pete do this? Because everybody else in the admin does it the same way. From Fox News, Mayor Pete blames Trump for Ohio train derailment amid criticism. We're constrained! Well, see, Mayor Pete, you've had 2 years, almost 3 years to fix that. From Thomas Cantonacci. Transportation Secretary Mayor Pete shifted part of the blame for the recent derailment of the train carrying toxic chemicals in Ohio on the Trump admin, reversing a little-known safety rule. Buttigieg noted Tuesday evening that his agency had taken a series of steps to improve rail safety through historic investments, but said it was constrained by the Trump admin action in 2018. The DOT withdrew a rule proposed 3 years earlier requiring trains carrying certain dangerous chemicals to utilize electronically controlled pneumatic brakes, saying the technology's benefits were inconclusive. In the wake of the East Palestine derailment and its impact on hundreds of residents, we're seeing lots of newfound or renewed and welcome interest in our work on rail safety. So I wanted to share more about what we've been doing in the area, Buttigieg said. See, I don't know how much electronically controlled pneumatic brakes would do. That's just air brakes that have an electronic control if something is going wrong. I've never read Atlas Shrugged. It's on my list of books to read, but I've never read it. I know I'm a bad libertarian, which I guess I'm not a libertarian anyway, but I'm a bad libertarian. I don't worship the ground that Ayn Rand walks on. Ayn Rand, Paul Ryan. We're constrained by law in some of the areas of rail regulation, like the braking rule withdrawn by the Trump admin in 2018 because of a law passed by Congress in 2015. But we're using the powers we do have to keep people safe. Do you not have the legislative ability to pitch this and make this a thing? If you think it's so important. I don't think it's that important. And of course, I'm always ready to work with Congress on furthering, or in some cases restoring our capacity to address rail safety issues. Well then, go to Congress. You've had 2 years, Mayor Pete. 2. Like the Ghostbusters ghost. 2. So, we're going to keep watching the Ohio situation, the Tucson situation. A lot of it's going to be the blame game, because it always is. Nothing's going to get done about it, and we're probably going to see another crash at some point. Let's grab one from the USA Today, talking about the debt ceiling. Debt limit forecast says U.S. could be in default by summer. Here's how that could impact you. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I stacked up 4 articles to tell you that We really have no idea. So they're saying summer. There's no X date in the report to mark the threshold for when the U.S. will run out of cash. USA Today says between July and September, according to the CBO. CNN, Congress needs to act soon to avoid catastrophic U.S. debt default. CBO report warns. From Tammy Luby. Between July and September, we have no idea. You remember when it was June, and June was the deadline? Politico, debt limit will hit by September, federal forecasters predict. And by the way, Massey's pin was based. From Jennifer Schultes, Caitlin Emma, and Eleanor Mueller, the federal government will officially run out of cash between July and September of this year. The Congressional Budget Office predicted Wednesday, which would put the apex of the debt limit standoff right in the middle of lawmakers' August recess. Now, I actually want to talk about that for just a second because this is a completely different argument than what's actually happening with the debt ceiling, and I don't think that the writers at Politico know the difference there because, no, they're actually not going to run out of cash because they appropriated enough to take them through December of this next year for cash, for new spending and continued spending. The problem is that they can't run up debt anymore, but what they have until December is already appropriated. The new prediction heightens pressure on President Biden and congressional leaders to strike compromise that prevents the U.S. from defaulting on its loans this summer. The Independent Budget Office cautioned that the so-called X date, when the Treasury Department can no longer pay interest on its $31 trillion plus debt, will depend on the flow of federal money in and out of the government for the next few months. Remember when I told you that you probably shouldn't go and buy a bond right now? Not official financial advice, but hey, look at where we're at right now. And CBS trying to tell you as soon as July. U.S. could default as soon as July if the debt limit isn't addressed, Congressional Budget Office report says, from Sarah Ewell-Weiss. The U.S. could be at risk of defaulting as soon as July if Congress doesn't move to raise or suspend the debt limit. That's according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office report released on Wednesday, which comes as the White House and Republican lawmakers are in a standoff over how to proceed. Last month, Secretary Yellen sent a letter to congressional leaders telling them the U.S. had hit the $31.4 trillion debt limit. At the time, the Treasury had begun deploying so-called extraordinary measures to keep paying the bills. Yellen urged Congress to act as soon as possible to address the debt ceiling and avoid the government's first-ever credit default, which could have catastrophic economic consequences. So again, the long and short of it is they don't know. But they are going to try to put the panic into you, who can do nothing about it, to make you hate the evil Republican Party for not coming down and bending down and just giving Joe Biden whatever he wants. Meanwhile, Joe Biden can come out and say, hey, I'm not even going to negotiate with these terrorists, just give me everything that I want. And be praised somehow as the good guy. Actually, a little bit of news on this, though, that's outside of the time. Two Democrats want McConnell's 2011 debt ceiling fix proposal to be adopted. From Jared Gons. I don't. Marjorie Taylor Greene rejects Bush and heals Haley. We're putting that on the stack for tomorrow. Let me tuck that over there. That's funny. I like that. That's probably not going to be a thing I like, but I do like that. And I'm going to have fun with that later on. You know what? we're going to stick that one over there too, because I kind of want to talk about that as well. I want to read about it first, but I want to talk about that. 2 Democratic senators called on Congress to adopt a proposal that Senate Minority Leader, the Turtleman McConnell, made in 2011 to address a standoff over raising the debt ceiling, which would grant the president the authority to raise the limit on their own. You morons hated it then. Which, I mean, we know. We understand. Senators Jeff Merkley and Tim Kaine, in an op-ed to the Washington Post, Where Democracy Goes to Die in Darkness, on Wednesday said that McConnell's plan is simple and took the weaponization of the debt ceiling off the table during a battle over raising the debt limit more than a decade ago. The plan was included in the Budget Control Act of 2011, which ended the impasse between a Republican-led House and a Democrat-led Senate and then-President Obama. While the broader Budget Control Act had numerous flaws, the McConnell plan itself was a good solution. And it remains a good solution today, Merkley and Kaine said. No, it was the wrong solution then, and it's still the wrong solution now. That's why we put representatives in Congress, so they can make these decisions the way that we hope that they'll make them, and not just give unilateral authority to a king. You can take this proposal, Tim Kaine and Jeff Merkley, and shove it square where the sun doesn't shine. I think Mayor Pete can help you with that. They said McConnell's plan allowed Obama to raise the debt ceiling on his own, while allowing Congress to pass a joint resolution to override that action if 2/3 of lawmakers wish to do so. No, that's not the direction we need to go with this. We need to go in the other direction. It was wrong when they did it for Obama, it was wrong when they did it for Trump, and it's wrong now. Stop spending the damned money. They said this allowed Congress to continue to have oversight over raising the debt ceiling, but prevented it from being used as a political tool. Merkley and Kaine said their Protect Our Credit Act of 2023, which they introduced this month along with Senators Feinstein and Coons, would make McConnell's plan from 2011 permanent. No! I can't believe, honestly, the amount of people in this country that want to see us into a monarchy. In either direction. Because, I mean, that's a step going in that direction. And of course they're going to want to stop it when a president that they don't like comes into office. They're only going to want it to be for Democrat presidents. And they'll do everything they can to stop it if it's a Republican president. The short-sightedness of some of these people, too. They think that if they do something like this, they'll have the 1,000-year Reich of peace. And again, my point is it was wrong when they did it then, and it's wrong now. So let's stop talking about that crap. Well, they're going to find a way to continue to force us into this crap. And, you know, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this is probably not going to go anywhere unless they do put it in the last-minute budget that nobody has time to read. You know, the things that Rand Paul loves. Speaking of the Senate, the truth is out there. UFO fever grips Congress. From Politico's Marianne Levine, Daniela Diaz, and Burgess Everett. Senators left a classified briefing on Tuesday with at least one question answered about 3 unidentified flying objects that the military shot down over the weekend. They weren't aliens. But that's about where the certainty ends. Members of both parties entered the briefing room with Biden admin officials wanting more information about the origins of the unidentified objects. They left the room reiterating calls for more transparency from the White House. This is what I took away. This has been going on for years, said John Kennedy. Number 2, except for the Chinese spy balloon, we don't really know what they are. Number 3, we don't even know if we've caught all of them. Number 4, what's different right now is that we've shot some down. That's good news, I suppose. Capitol Hill swirling with intrigue about the military's downing of 4 objects that hovered over U.S. and Canadian airspace in recent days. In the absence of complete information, Republicans nudged Joe Biden to address the nation directly on the matter. While Democrats aren't going that far, some indicated that the admin could be doing more. Dick Durbin summed up the briefing this way: "It answered a lot of questions and it raised a lot of questions." Just like every news story that I read every day. Before the public knew about the 3 newest unidentified objects, DoD officials were in contact over the weekend with senators from states over which they flew. Debbie Stabenow recalled in a brief interview the alarming call she got Sunday afternoon from the DoD, which gave her the mysterious play-by-play as the object hovered over the mitten. She wasn't alone in being kept informed every step. Both Senators Gary Peters and Tammy Baldwin heard from the admin before publicly disclosed the object. If I'm going to stutter, man, I'm going to have to start talking like Biden, man. Come on. Come on, man. Yet, even as the identified craft became the 3rd shot down by U.S. military in the span of a weekend, senators have still have critical questions about what the heck is happening. The most troublesome aspect is what's going on. Where are they coming from? Who's behind them? Murkowski asked on Monday. We get weather balloons, we understand weather balloons, but if it's not weather balloons, what are they? Who's sending them? That bothers me. So, I don't know what it is either. I don't know if we're ever going to know. I don't know if they're ever going to tell us. The admin scrambles to quell Congress's frustration over balloons and UFOs. From Alexander Bolton over at The Hill. Senior admin officials scrambled Tuesday to quell frustrations expressed by lawmakers about lack of timely information concerning several flying objects and a Chinese spy balloon shot down over the past 2 weeks. In a classified briefing on Tuesday, the officials offered an update on the 3 aerial objects shot down Friday and last weekend. Separately, officials said they believed the objects were not threats to national security and were benign balloons. It's unclear just how much the briefing calmed lawmakers, as senators say they didn't get answers to several questions, including who launched the objects that were shot down in recent days, whether they were military or commercial vehicles, and what they were doing in the sky. Chuck U. Schumer said after the briefing that John Tester will lead an investigation into why the balloons weren't detected earlier. We still have questions about why they didn't discover these balloons sooner, these objects sooner, Schumer told reporters after the weekly Democratic caucus meeting. Senator Tester is going to lead our caucus in investigating this. It's a good question. We need answers to it. Again, don't know what's going to happen from this. The Turtle Man cited the balloon along with the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan, Biden's modest request for defense spending in last year's White House budget proposal, and the president's failure to discuss Iran and North Korea in his State of the Union address. I think it's deeply disturbing that the president put all of his emphasis on things that were unrelated to the very serious threat that we're all confronting here, but not only Ukraine, not only in Asia, but even with balloons flying right over our skies, McConnell said at a press conference. I think the American people deserve to hear more from the president on all of those issues, and hopefully we will in the coming days, he added. Well, we'll see what goes with that. From Newsweek, Senator warns people to lock your doors after classified hearings on UFOs. From Ellie Cook. A Louisiana senator has advised citizens to lock your doors following a classified briefing to lawmakers on the unidentified object shot down over the weekend. 4 objects have been shot down over North American airspace since February 4th. The first was identified by the Pentagon as a Chinese surveillance balloon. But the U.S. Defense Department has not confirmed the nature of the remaining 3 objects intelligence officials are considering as a leading explanation that these could be tied to commercial or research entities and benign, the White House said on Tuesday. Senators received a classified briefing on Tuesday. It was delivered by officials from the Defense Department, NORAD, and the U.S. Northern Command, as well as the Office for the Director of National Intelligence. Speaking to the media following the briefing, John Kennedy said officials have so far been unable to locate the remnants of the 3 unidentified objects, excluding the spy balloon. It's clear to me that this is not a recent phenomenon. Oh hey, we got video. Let's listen. Get rid of that.
That's what I took away from it today.
Thanks, guys.
Phenomenon.
Lock your doors tonight.
Lock your doors tonight. If they've got the technology to fly around in a cylinder without wings, locking your doors is going to help. Phenomenon. On February 10th, the Defense Department said that a U.S. F-22 fighter jet had shot down an unidentified high-altitude object flying at around 40,000 feet above northern Alaska. Biden had ordered the shooting down of the object, the Pentagon said, with the object posing a risk of civilian flight. The object fell into sea ice and recovery operations are underway, the Pentagon added. But don't worry, lock your doors. Lock your doors, hide your kids, hide your wife. Audio. What the hell was that? I don't know what that was. Audio released from F-16 fighter jets as they intercepted object over Lake Huron. From Ryan Saavedra. Cockpit audio from the F-16 fighter jets that were scrambled to intercept an unidentified flying object over Lake Huron over the weekend reveals that pilots had difficulty describing what they believed the object was. And we've got the full audio, which is 25 minutes. But we'll listen to a little bit of it here. The release of the audio recording comes after the object was shot down on Sunday, after an object was shot down over Canada on Saturday, and after an object was shot down on Friday off the coast of Alaska. I wouldn't really call it a balloon. I don't know what. I can see it outside with my eyes, one of the pilots from the Wisconsin Air National Guard said, in a recording obtained by The Drive. Classic rock station out of Chicago, by the way. Looks like something. There's some kind of object that's distended in the air. It's hard to tell, it's pretty small. A pilot said he could not tell if the object was metallic or what. I can see like lines coming down below, but I can't see anything below it, he continued, adding the object was definitely smaller than a car. The pilot said it was a blackish color that looked like a container. The size of it, that could be challenging. It's so slow and so small, I just can't see it because it's so close, the pilot said. I'm going to call it a balloon, another pilot said. You can definitely see strings hanging down below, but I don't see anything more. It's pretty small. I don't know about the size of like a four-wheeler or something. The Air Force F-16 jets that took down the object had to fire 2 $472,000 Sidewinder AIM-9X missiles at the target because the first missile somehow missed the object. The first Sidewinder heat-seeking missile missed the target, the defense official told Fox News. All right, let's listen to some of the audio.
3211, be there. He's on CC, hit 132, taxi, Chicago. Clip. Is 29927. 1, turn down the COM 1, the COM 2 radio. If you want it, I would have called Huntress and the Ox. Got it. Huntress, Acer 1-1. I checked same, switch is safe. We're establishing the block 200230 en route. For 1-1, do you have a point out for TOA 1? Copy all, thanks. 2-1-1. Bullseye. 2-1, check same, and can I get a new bullseye for TOA 1? 7. Did I COM 2 just turned down. I'll let you handle primarily ETC. I'll hold on to Hunters, but I do have them up. Copy. That static is so loud in my kid. I don't know if you're getting all that feedback from them or not. I'm not right now. Okay, yeah. It's constant static from that radio. Yes, man. And 1730 air CTE, thanks. I'm up 124.4. 124.4, thanks. Raise 1-1. Well, we'll plan on just going to the cap. I'm trying to coordinate with Center now for a 30 nautical mile rig. Currently we got 20-23 on intercepting the TOI, and I'll probably yo-yo to the tanker as required. The bullseye 293-54-20K. We're heading to the northwest beam. It's going to be the hardest spot. I almost kind of want to go to a point and then do like a head-on. Well, anyways, we got plenty of time. Request ownership last maneuver, so we do that. Sounds good. We'll go on left heading at 350, standby. Basically, we're going to want to point, off of our whole point 270, 20 to, it sounds like actually 18 to 24 would be the request, based on the tanker being at 26, the TOI at 20, up to 21. This freak. Ship heading in, are we still on 350? Currently just 350. Copy. Yeah, the winds are 69 knots. So double check MTR 30. Pick up about a 5 to 10 mile. On a 300 radio. On a stack again. One is 9.8. 2 San Francisco. 01. 247. That's right. 05. You're going to ask for a 300 heading. This should actually work out pretty well. Put here at our whole point. 200. Yeah. 311. We're good. I got 17 to 25,000 now. I'll be 17 at 25. One got low establishment.
All right, so we're not getting a lot out of this, and I mean, even the audio that they have here is hard to hear, but I will put the Daily Wire article into the Discord if you guys want to listen to the entire 24-minute segment. Get that up there right now. See if you can make something out of the radio code as well. That is one of the things that was a little bit hard for me on top of it, but that's where we're at with that. All right, what else do we have? Another reason this story is going to fall out of the news. From the Blaze, Michigan State shooter had prior felony gun charges dropped by Democrat DA. Would otherwise have been barred from having a firearm. And I hate to say it, but that probably wouldn't have stopped him anyway. From Joseph McKinnon. Michigan Democrats are pushing for new gun control laws after 3 Michigan State University students were gunned down and several others were injured in a shooting on Monday evening. It is unclear whether additional laws will be any more effective than the existing gun laws. Hint, they won't. But the Democrat district attorney failed to do faithfully apply in full to the MSU shooter after his previous run-in with the law. Look, I believe that most gun laws are unconstitutional, but if we want to argue about gun laws and making new ones, I need you guys to first enforce the ones that are on the book. Former Ingham County District Attorney Carol Seaman not only pushed for Anthony McRae to avoid serious consequences and reacquire a weapon, but a general policy for other criminals as well. The Detroit Free Press reported that Anthony McRae, the man police indicated was responsible for the slaying of 3 innocent students and then killing himself, was arrested in 2019 on a gun charge in Lansing. Chris Gouts, a spokesman for the Michigan Department of Corrections, told the Free Press about the arrest. On June 7, 2019, an officer spotted an individual near an abandoned building on East Street in Lansing. Around 1:30 a.m., the officer questioned McRae, who had just left the store, said Gouts. When asked, he admitted that he had a gun on him and he did not have a concealed weapons permit. He claimed that he left home to walk to a store to buy cigarettes and feared for his safety, so he took his gun. According to court records, officer approached McRae, asked him if he was armed, then upon confirmation that he was, detained him. The officer found a Ruger LCP .380 semi-automatic pistol on McRae's person, along with a loaded mag. McRae was charged with violation of a concealed carry law and possessing a loaded weapon in a vehicle. Despite the initial felony charge, the Ingham County District Attorney's Office, formerly helmed by Progressive Democrat Carol Seaman, cut McRae a deal and lowered the charges to a misdemeanor. Again, a charge that shouldn't have been on the books to begin with. There is no reason that this guy should have been charged with a felony for just carrying a gun and not using it. But if the law is there, then it should be enforced before we go start to make new laws or repeal the laws that are there. One of the two. The misdemeanor did not prevent him from purchasing, owning, or possessing a firearm after he successfully completed his terms of probation, added Dwayne. So, now we have dead kids. Because these people think that adding another law on the top of everything else will solve everything, and yet they won't enforce the laws that are there. And also, this is probably going to be pushed to the back burner, never heard about again. From CBS in video. Maybe, because CBS Video, I just realized, doesn't like to play on here, and I don't know why. We will save this for tomorrow, because that's not going to play. But as long as we're there, let's talk about The View. You should get to know me, Tim Scott mocks Whoopi Goldberg for confusing him with Rick Scott. From Virginia Kruta. Senator Scott laid into Whoopi Goldberg on Tuesday after she joked that she couldn't tell him apart from Rick Scott. Goldberg made the comments during a segment on the ABC midday talk show The View, suggesting that because they were both Republicans, she really couldn't differentiate between Tim Scott, who is black, and Rick Scott, who is not. So, just a few clips on this. Then we'll move on.
But, you know, as governor, they keep on saying her defining moment was signing legislation removing the Confederate flag from the state capitol. She only did that after the massacre that happened at the Emmanuel Church that I actually covered and spoke to those family members. She only did that. And then let's remember that after Trump came, by 2019, she was defending the Confederate flag. She said that the Charleston church shooter had hijacked the Confederate flag. No, ma'am, the Confederate flag had always been hijacked. And that, then she said that people saw it as service, sacrifice, and heritage. I see it as heresy as a person of color in this country. And so when she wants to say the right thing, I think she's very much a political grifter and a chameleon. And the bar is very low because it's on the ground. Yeah. But I don't. It's below the ground. It's below the ground. I don't see her as a step up from anything.
And we go on to this one.
Just real quick, I don't see her defining moment because I think it was always too late. The fact that we waited to have that conversation on the Confederate flag until a tragedy hit, to me it was where she was on school choice, where she is on national security, her economic policies as governor. She's someone I could believe in, and Nancy Pelosi said the other day, we deserve to have two strong parties. This is a massive step up.
We do deserve to have two strong parties. So, Tim Scott, Black Tim Scott, right? Because there are two Scotts, and I don't know how to differentiate them without a picture. Yeah. So
Rick Scott and Tim Scott?
Rick Scott and Tim Scott. Right. Tim Scott is black, right?
Yeah,
okay. He's about to run, announce his running. They're going to be coming out of the woodwork, so don't just settle.
She's not my candidate necessarily. Okay. I'm waiting to see the field shape up.
Good.
Yeah, it's not hard to see the difference between these two men. They seem, I don't know, there's some characteristic there that I can't put my finger on. But just, I can tell that they're very different. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? Alright. Let's grab one from Jezebel, which I can't believe I just said on Contemporary. Dianne Feinstein should resign now, not retire later. From Susan Rincunas, and by the way, this is Jezebel, so this is very obviously an op-ed. I'm not going to go through the main spiel of that, but this is very obviously an op-ed. Senator Feinstein said Tuesday that she won't seek re-election in 24. CNN reported that Feinstein shared her decision with her colleagues at the Democratic caucus lunch. The state's first woman senator has faced questions in recent years about her mental fitness to serve, most prominently in stories in The New Yorker and the San Francisco Chronicle from 2020 and 2022 respectively. Both stories discussed her reportedly cognitive decline, and the Chronicle story had 4 senators and 3 former staffers, all anonymous, say that her memory was rapidly deteriorating. She even stepped down as chair of the Judiciary Committee in November 2020 after strange behavior during the Amy Coney Barrett hearings. Strange behavior, like actually hearing out the nominee. Back to today's events. I'm announcing today I will not run for re-election in 24, but intend to accomplish as much for California as I can through the end of next year when my term ends, Feinstein 89 said in a statement. Even with the divided Congress, we can still pass bills that will improve lives. Each of us was sent here to solve problems. That's what I've done for the last 30 years and what I plan to do for the next 2 years. We can thank her for her decades of service and also want to remind her that she can in fact simply retire now. On today of all days, Feinstein seems confused about what was happening and when. Her Senate Twitter account shared the retirement news at 1:50 p.m. Eastern. Just before 2:30 p.m., Chuck U. Schumer talked about her announcement with reporters and called her a legend. But shortly before 3, she told reporters she didn't know the statement had even been released. Christian Hall, national politics reporter for Bloomberg, which is Ron Helton's favorite publication from his favorite politician, tweeted that reporters had asked Feinstein about her announcement to retire, and she responded, "I haven't made that decision. I haven't released anything." A Feinstein staffer had to tell the senator that a statement was released, and she said, "I didn't know they put that out." Oof. Oof. A different reporter tweeted that Feinstein had said to a staffer, "You put out that statement? I didn't know that they put that out." Reporter Savannah Berman of the National Journal said after listening to the audio again that she thought it sounded like "I should have known they put it out," but the audio clip still sounds to me like Feinstein said "I didn't know." This is a person who's going to serve nearly 40 million constituents and serve on 4 committees for the next 2 years. So here's the thing with Feinstein. And part of the reason that I think that Jezebel and the Democrats and progressives are trying to force her out at this point. Feinstein is a proponent of the filibuster. She's one of the people that's not going to vote to end the filibuster. No matter how many times they bring it out to the floor, they don't have the votes to do so. Now, they still fail by 48 to change the filibuster because they only need a simple majority to do so. But in doing so, now with the addition of the additional senator from the Hong Kong election that happened there, and given the fact that, I mean, the Senate map does not look good for Democrats coming up through. A lot more of the defending Republicans this next time through are in very safe red states. And a lot of the Democrats that are up this year are vulnerable, very vulnerable. But if they can just get in there and just maybe bribe one more senator, maybe even on the GOP side, to come back in and say, yes, we will do the filibuster and get Kamala in to break the tie. Well, they're still not going to do anything because of the House, but their dream of getting rid of the filibuster will be there. And I know that's a part of it. And a part of it is because, I mean, Feinstein is an old style, old time Union Democrat. She's not a progressive Democrat like the ones that California wants to put in. Now, as far as Feinstein goes, and this is an important thing an aspect to look at as well, is that no matter what happens, whether it's Gavin Newsom appoints somebody or, you know, one of these progressive bungholes pops up and gets in her place in 2024, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be, she's getting primaried from the left in California. So no matter what happens there, but honestly, it's really starting to sound to me like she is not planning on retiring at this point. She wants to go run again, but her staff made the decision for her, which, like Biden, really makes me question who is in charge of the admin. More government behaving badly. Biden's brother was hired to broker a secret $140 million Saudi deal when Joe was Veep, documents reveal. From Emily Crane. Now, first brother James Biden was hired to help a Philadelphia construction company resolve a decades-old dispute with the Saudi government because he was the sibling of then Vice President Joe Biden, a court documents reveal. The 2017 admission by James Biden, referenced in two affidavits from May 2021, is certain to draw the attention of the GOP-led House Oversight Committee as it investigates the first family's influence peddling dating back years. The affidavit, first obtained by thedailymail.com, was filed in a dispute between the construction company Hill International and one of three law firms that hired to help claw back approximately $140 million to the Saudis owed for a desalination plant built by a Hill subsidiary in the 80s. That firm, Langford and Reed, claims that the Hill International also hired James Biden, now 73, in 2011 to negotiate a secret deal with the Saudis to settle the dispute and get out of paying the Langford the 40% cut outlined in their contract. In July of 2017, Thomas Sullivan, former Treasury Department official turned private investigator hired by Langford, drove to Jim's home in suburban Philadelphia to discuss his role with Hill. According to Sullivan's sworn statement, James Biden says he was hired to handle Hill's business development and had been assigned to help with the company's interests in Saudi Arabia. The first brother added that he was often tapped to represent Hill in meetings because, of course, the name didn't hurt, Sullivan recalled. So, the question I have off this, number one, is did he use his name to do things? Which he very obviously did. That's not even called into question at this point. It's very, very obvious that being a Biden meant getting all kinds of special treatment in the hopes that you could get access to the former vice president and now president. But now, with that being said, my big question here is, are we looking at a situation where he was just using his name and saying, okay, well, hey, I know Joe Biden, or were there political favors being done because of the fact that he's a Biden, and is Joe involved? I don't care if Jim Biden is a scumbag. Jim Biden doesn't make public policy. But if Jim Biden is calling up Joe and saying, hey, can you grease these wheels for me? I've got a problem with that. That needs to be addressed. And that seems to be the part that we're missing on this, is whether or not this is influence peddling, or if there is something legitimate going on. And I don't know. Alright, here is one from Fox News. South Carolina bill shielding identities of death penalty drug makers advances. Coming to Fox News from the Associated Press. Republicans' quest to resume executions in South Carolina overcame another hurdle on Thursday. The state Senate Corrections and Penology Committee approved a bill that would shield the identities of the companies that dispensed the drug cocktail used to execute a person on death row. The full Senate must now take up the latest effort in the state's search for a method of capital punishment. South Carolina's gone nearly 12 years without an execution. Recent sessions have seen futile attempts to begin executing the state's death row prisoners, who now total 35 condemned people, including one man whose sentence dates back to 1983, according to a February 2nd South Carolina Department of Corrections list. South Carolina's latest batch of lethal injection drugs have not been replenished since the supply expired in 2013. In lieu of that method, Henry McMaster in 2021 signed a law giving condemned prisoners the choice between death by a newly created firing squad or the electric chair, which is kind of based. But the law has been placed on hold amid a challenge from death row prisoners who have argued both methods are unconstitutionally cruel and unusual punishments. Why? I would say the shot would be worse and more cruel and unusual, because as it courses through your veins, that's gotta hurt. That's gotta be painful. Now, I don't think the government should be killing anybody, personally. But if I'm gonna die, I want 12 people on a line to make sure that I don't get out of it alive. Or I want to sit in a chair, strapped down, and put a light bulb in my mouth when they turn on the chair. I think that would be hilarious too. By the way, there's a not insignificant chance that I die by death penalty from the government. Although in my case, it's probably going to be the officer from the federal government that they send to take me in for wrongthink and saying awful things about the government is probably most likely going to decide to be judge, jury, and executioner when I tell him he can kiss my ass. As far as trying to shield the companies from having to give out the information that they were involved in the lethal injection, let me ask a question. Why? If you're so proud of this and you're so proud of trying to get the death penalty back in South Carolina, why not stand behind what it is that you do? What are you ashamed of? What don't you want the public to see? Why are you trying to hide from this? And with that being said, I mean, I know exactly what they're trying to hide from. This is a very, very, very uncouth thing to be involved in. But again, you've lobbied to have this method of killing people and torturing people put onto the books. Why? You need to explain this to me, why you don't want to be associated with it. I need to know that information. But, hey, South Carolina is going to do what South Carolina is going to do from the Blaze. From my state, with a video. So, you remember... Excuse me. God, it had to have been 18 months ago. When we talked about the girl who did a bunch of meth with her boyfriend and then cut him up in his basement where he was living underneath his mom's house. Well, she's on trial right now. Defendant on trial for gruesome murder attacks her attorney during a court appearance. From Courtney Wheel. A Green Bay, Wisconsin woman who allegedly strangled her lover to death and then dismembered his body has now apparently attacked her attorney. On Tuesday, Taylor Shabusiness, which I still think, no matter how horrifying this woman is a really cool name. Taylor Shabusiness was in Brown County Circuit Court because her attorney wanted to request a 2-week delay for her murder trial. The trial had been scheduled for March 6th, but the attorney Quinn Jolly told Judge Thomas Walsh that he needed more time to allow an expert witness to review the case. The expert witness would reportedly be able to testify to Shabusiness's mental capacity. She has pled not guilty, and not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. So the testimony of that expert witness could be helpful for her defense. Despite the seriousness of the circumstances, Shabusiness did not seem to appreciate Jolly's efforts on her behalf. Just moments after Judge Walsh agreed to extend the trial, Shabusiness lunged at Jolly and swung at him with her fists. A deputy had to restrain Shabusiness physically, and the courtroom had to be cleared before the hearing could continue. It kind of looked like this here, actually.
Week of May 15 for the trial.
We don't have good audio, unfortunately.
Stop it. Stop it. Rachel, call.
Where are her shoes?
Is they bringing 7 in? Or, yeah, let's just go to secondary. I was in, we'll stand by there.
Billy, can you walk?
Let's watch that again.
I'm looking at the week of May 15 for the trial.
Stop it. Stop it.
I'm actually honestly going to say that actually probably helps her in her sanity plea. I don't say that lightly because I think that that's a way overused trope, but I think that actually in this case helps her. Shabusiness already faces a series of horrific accusations according to reports. She brutally murdered her. Okay, so this is only a year ago. I thought this was more than that. She brutally murdered her lover, 25-year-old Shad Thyrion, a year ago when the two were engaged in a meth-infused embrace. On February 23, 2022, she allegedly choked the victim with a chain and would not relent, even when he turned purple. After she discovered he was dead, she allegedly began sexually abusing his body by performing oral sex on his corpse and inserting a sex toy into his mouth and anus. She then began dismembering the body, the criminal complaint stated, cutting off Thyrion's head with a bread knife, and leaving it and male organ in the bucket, which Thyrion's mother later found in her basement. Police also found at least one leg in the van that Shabusiness had supposedly borrowed from her roommate. Her business reportedly admitted to the detective she committed the grisly murder, adding that she liked choking Thyrion. She also supposedly told them that he intended to remove all the victim's severed parts, but that after a while she'd become lazy and had forgotten to remove the bucket containing his head. She even asked detectives whether they knew what it was like to love something so much that you kill it, the complaint stated. Yeah, this sounds like a person who might have a chance at an insanity plea. But hopefully with the insanity plea means that she'll be going up the river and be given that nice white jacket where she gives herself a hug all the time. Again, the insanity thing, I mean, number one, it's a movie trope that I think too many people in the real world are starting to try to use now. But number two, I think it's overused. Too many people are trying to say, well, I can't be held responsible for anything because I'm mentally ill. But in this woman's case, I think she might have a case. From Fox 32, a little bit of news coming out of O'Hare. Increase in homeless people reportedly sleeping at O'Hare Airport. From Fox 32 News, no author given. Travelers passing through O'Hare are noticing an increase in the number of homeless people sleeping in the airport. This according to a picture taken at the airport and posted to social media. Some of the photos show people staying in the baggage claim area, hallways, and vestibules. There has been a recent spike in the unhoused population according to the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless. The Chicago Department of Aviation issued the following statement in response. The CDA is aware of the increasing population of unsheltered individuals at the O'Hare International Airport. It's a common occurrence at this airport and airports nationwide when a temperature drops in the winter months. The City of Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services and their delegate agencies continue to provide 24/7 outreach to unsheltered residents at O'Hare. Which, realistically, I mean, we can see something like this coming. Let's watch what Fox 32 has to say about this.
Travelers passing through O'Hare are noticing an increase in the number of homeless people sleeping at the airport. This is according to pictures taken at the airport and posted to social media. Some of the photos show people staying in the baggage claim area, in the hallways and vestibules as well. There has been a recent spike in the unhoused population, according to the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless. The Chicago Department of Aviation did issue a statement responding to these posted images, saying the CDA is aware of the increased population of unsheltered individuals at O'Hare International. It's a common occurrence at this airport and airports nationwide when temperatures drop in the winter months. The City of Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services and their delegate agencies continue to provide 24/7 outreach to unsheltered residents at O'Hare.
I keep forgetting that Fox 32 they transcribe what the anchor said. But we have more of this. Let me just give a second here for this to play so we can shut it up.
Young men.
And then we'll read from the New York Post. Dystopian homeless encampments overtake Chicago's O'Hare Airport. From Jaren Steinbuch. Chicago's O'Hare has turned into a sprawling dystopian encampment for the Windy City's rising homeless population, mostly because they can't afford to keep living where they live because the cost of living is going nuts there. Sparking serious safety concerns among staff and passengers, who say they've been followed and harassed. Shocking photos show filthy makeshift shelters set up inside the major travel hub's terminal. One photo even shows a vagrant collapsed and asleep inside a terminal vestibule. It's out of control. None of us feel safe, said Bonkisha Chapman, a custodian who works the overnight shift in Terminal 1 and 2, as told to CBS News. Chapman said she and her coworkers have been harassed by the unwelcome guests who leave litter behind and trash in the bathrooms. They'll come up behind you. This one man followed us last night, another airport worker, Catherine Thompson, told the news outlet. Yeah, there's some of it. From the time we get here until the time we leave in the morning, they will be here. The two women say their supervisors tell them to call police, but they claim cops told them they can't intervene unless the workers are physically touched. That's actually true too, by the way. And I think that's crap. They tell us just to be careful because it's out of their hands, like they can't do anything, Chapman said. No, because we don't do pre-crime in this country. So there actually has to be a crime in order for the police to intervene. One Twitter user posted photographs of the homeless man sprawled on the floor in Terminal 2 and called on Mayor Lori Lightfoot to address the problem. Chicago Mayor, please clean up the city. This is the current state of O'Hare Airport. Homeless everywhere, sleeping all over the terminal. 2, and getting in people's faces yelling, the concerned citizen wrote earlier this month. This is the first impression people get when they land in the city, which, I mean, most of the world knows is already a crap hole. Another fed-up traveler shared a startling image of several homeless people camped barefoot among their belongings and litter between a glass door and an escalator. This picture of a homeless encampment was taken today at O'Hare at Fly to O'Hare Terminal 1 baggage claim. Chicago needs better leadership, they wrote. A third person who arrived at Terminal 3 said she had never seen such a homeless problem in the 50 years I've lived and worked in Cook County. It's not even that cold out. Also, aggressively hit up with "you need a ride" and baggage. It was dystopian, they wrote. It's not dystopian. And that's another word that gets completely overused. But, I mean, it's a major problem that needs to be addressed. We actually do need to talk about the fact that these people, that the homelessness is running rampant in this area, in this city. And they're going into, like the person said, this is the first impression. When people come into the city, when they fly into the city, that's the first thing they see is a massive homeless encampment. Now, I've been to O'Hare before, twice. I've never flown out of O'Hare. I've always, when I flew and I was living in that market, I always flew out of Midway. Now I'd probably fly out of the Twin Cities, but I don't know because it's been a while since I've had to fly, and I don't know where I would fly to. But with that being said, the two times I've been to O'Hare, and I know it's been in the international, because the first time was when I saw my second fiance off to Germany for her summer semester abroad for her major, and the time after that was when we went to pick her up and asked her to marry me. Yes, I know. It's a trope. Deal with it. I did it. But it was brilliant. It was clean. There was no litter. There were constantly people in there cleaning up. And even Midway, by the way, which is in a garbage neighborhood. I guess I didn't pay that much attention to the neighborhood that O'Hare was in when I went with the ex-in-laws, but it's just in a garbage neighborhood like Midway is. Midway is also, for the most part, pretty clean. I don't know, but I mean, at this point, something's got to be done, and it's all deteriorating. All right, do we have time for some more? We do. I think I'm going to save this one for things I hate. I know I've got that segment pulled up again, but we might be able to finish for the day. All right. From the Blaze, domestic violence abusers to be permanently banned from owning firearms under lawmakers' proposed bill. From Candace Hathaway. Legislation introduced last week by 2 Democratic senators pushed to permanently prevent convicted domestic violence from buying or owning firearms, Fox News Digital reported. The proposal seeks to add additional restrictions to the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, legislation signed by President Biden last year that added convicted domestic violence abusers and dating relationships to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, which, I'm going to be completely honest, should have been there from the first place. Under the current 2022 law, those recently convicted of domestic violence are temporarily banned from purchasing or owning a gun. 5 years after the completion of their sentence, if no other crime has been committed, the convicted abuser would be removed from the NICS list and once again allowed to own firearms lawfully. If passed, the Strengthening Protection for Domestic Violence and Stalking Survivors Act would restrict the convicted stalkers and all former dating partners convicted of domestic violence offense from buying or owning firearms regardless of when the relationship occurred. Amy Klobuchar and Debbie Dingell proposed legislation last week that would permanently prevent abusers in dating relationships from owning a firearm. The proposed bill would remove language from the current law that requires convicted abusers to have recently offended. The senators proposed the bill would also apply to convicted stalkers. Klobuchar and Dingell aim to close what has been coined the boyfriend loophole in the 2022 law. Federal law still includes a boyfriend loophole that allows abusive dating partners subject to protection orders and convicted stalkers to access firearms. I know this fear all too well. Growing up, I lived in a house with a man, my father, who should not have had access to a gun. I remember the terror my siblings and I felt as we hid from him in the closet and in the fear of him using it to hurt our mother. Wait, back up. So, he was still in the house with your mother. Which means, likely, and this is the 80s, but still means likely that he probably was never convicted of the crime. This law that you're proposing, this bill that you're proposing, wouldn't have done jack crap to that situation. Because he would have still had to go through the courts and the court system. And, by the way, we're sitting in this situation again where they're going to try to make this to anybody accused with no due process. That's, again, where we're going with the red flag laws. Now, as far as permanent removal, that's going to change state to state. That's not a federal thing. But in order to make the case that it's going to be a permanent removal, which, by the way, we do have to look at in the context of Minnesota, which I believe does have a permanent removal for felons, is you will have to classify domestic violence as a felony. Which I'm not opposed to, by the way. I am completely against domestic abuse. And I would want to, I would go in and defend somebody who is domestically abusing. Or being domestically abused, rather. There's the part that's going to get clipped for Media Matters. But I would physically intervene in a situation I have before. But what I'm going to tell you is this, is you need to reclassify this, and you need to take into account the fact of how many other aspects of this person's life is going to be ruined. And by the way, how many votes you're going to lose from that as well. Because a large amount of these jackoffs who feel the need to go back and hit a woman vote Democrat. So just think about that for just a moment. Again, I'm not opposed to making domestic violence a felony. I think that should have been done long ago. But they don't want it to be classified as a felony, by the way. They want to be able to do the take the gun away thing. So they can say, oh, women's empowerment, and look what we're doing for Moammons and things like that. But they don't want to lose those votes. So, there's going to be maybe some changes in federal law and state law, which again, this is something that should be done at a state level, not a federal level. I don't think this is going to go anywhere except for the fact that it's going to be used for campaign purposes. All right. And with that, we're done. We're out of here for the night. Before before we do, I want to talk just a bit about something that I'm thankful for. And again, I go back to the move. I really do. Now on the move, I mean, things have changed in my life in a major way, in a pretty intense way as well. I don't talk a lot about my personal life here, but just I'm watching things shape up. Did you guys know that I went up 12 grand in salary when I moved here? I did the average when I got my last paycheck and realized, and being bi-weekly has kind of changed the way that I look at it a little bit, because I look at some of these paychecks and I'm like, oh, well, I would be out a lot of money if I was waiting for a specific amount of money. And again, one of the things to remember is that, like, I was pretty much set at 40 hours. I might as well have been salary at my last job, because unless I did not come to work in a day, which never happened because I was poor, it came into a situation of, oh, well, I'm getting the exact same paycheck every week anyway, which I was, literally. Because I worked just slightly over 40 every week, and then the boss was like, oh, well, because of our company policy, I got to lop off a little bit off your paycheck. Which, by the way, they probably owe me a good week's worth of pay because of that, just because of all they took from me for that. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there adds up over the course of 4 years. But I mean, I can look at it and be thankful for what I did. I got a bill from my old apartment complex when I was living in before, which I knew that the company that took it over, and I'm not going to name them on here. You know who you are. But I got a bill from them because, and I knew that there were going to be trouble right from the beginning. After the moron sold the building out, they came out and said, okay, well, we're gonna, well, we've got your security deposit, and unless we have bills or anything else from that, we can use that to cover for your rent. But I mean, just looking out about this, they replaced the stove. They broke in, they replaced the stove. It's breaking and entering because they didn't give me any notice, and then they billed me for the labor, and then they sent me another bill for the door for the stove that they threw out. So, just, I was sitting in a situation where I was looking down the bow, and I was seeing my life go way downhill in a fast. That company would have nickel and dimed me up completely to death. Not to mention the fact that there was really no opportunity for me to improve my state in life, other than go buy a house. But I've changed, and a lot of things have turned around for me. I'm very happy to see all that right now. And, again, we can turn around and do a little bit better off the contemporary front. I do have to do my job again, so I can't pay attention to the news during the day, or the Discord, or the Twitter. My Twitter profile is just bombed. My engagement is down because I never post anything anymore. And there are other things that are happening on the more private level as well that I'm very thankful for. You guys know that I don't talk about my personal life very much on here because I don't want the people that are involved in my personal life to be stalked for me saying something offhand or wrong, or having wrong think off of there. They didn't ask to be in the public sphere. I asked to be in the public sphere. They didn't. So I've always had that policy with that, but I can tell you right now that it's very good on that front as well, and I'm very thankful for that. And I had something happen today that made me very, very, very thankful for that. So everything is looking good right now, and I'm very happy to see that. But with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. So let's throw some outro music up and head out of here. Alright, so with that, we're done for the day. I've already got some stuff queued up for tomorrow, so we'll be talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nikki Haley, which that's going to be a catfight to come. We'll be talking about E. Jean Carroll and still trying to hang Trump for crimes he didn't commit, as far as we know. And a whole bunch more. I'm sure that we'll be talking more about the debt ceiling, more about the transport, and whatever else happens in the next 22 hours. So come back here, join me again, 6 p.m. Central Time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. It's going to be a great time. Hopefully I won't be stuttering as much, but I Yeah, I don't know. I am heavily caffeinated, so it shouldn't be for lack of sleep, but we'll find that out. I'm gonna go have some dinner. I've been starving for a while, so we'll see you here tomorrow. Be good, be safe, have fun. And until tomorrow, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.